I'm Susie from Nail Care Education, and I'm super excited because this is one of the first videos of my new DIY nail workshop videos. The foundation is going to be forms. That's the very beginning of starting to do nails. Let's get started. Forms can drive you crazy. Forms have to be done right, or the whole nail is a wash. The placement of your form is so important that by the time you take it off, file, and shape, if that placement is not accurate, it can make the nail look wonky. So forms can be extremely frustrating if it's not placed in the proper spot. Now it's just a piece of paper, but that piece of paper is very crucial on where you place it. So I'm going to show you how we're going to do that. Take a form off, and I always split the top of my form. Some are perforated and some are not, and if it's not, just cut it or rip it. I got a couple of practice fingers here, and they're included in my professional acrylic kit. Each one represents the kind of nail you might be working with. One has a long nail and the other one is short. So we'll start with the one that has a little bit of the nail on there. This is a little bit longer than most clients do have. Most clients are about half that length. I need me glasses. I always think of it this way. You've got a little bit of natural nail. The acrylic is going to sit on top of the natural nail. Everything's going to sit on top of the natural nail. So the form has to be placed below the natural nail. Now, if they don't have much of a natural nail, it might be kind of difficult to figure out where that piece of paper goes. But if you take their natural nail in your mind, and from where you see it on their nail and sort of pull it out in your brain, that piece of paper has to be placed under where you think it's going to go. It's an educated guess. So when you're placing that piece of paper, the most important section you want to get it under is, I mean, it's all important, but the sides are crucially important. This one's a bit shorter, and I will show you that too. It's all important on every nail that you do. So when you're placing that piece of paper, you want to go under completely. Now this nail here is quite curvy. I'll show it up in the camera above. You can see that it's got a bit of a curve on it, which means the nail's curving this way. So you want to, sometimes you can take the form and kind of go like that with it to give it a bit of a bend. Having said that, sometimes people will take the little piece of paper and put it underneath here, like that. I don't particularly like to do that because I buy really good forms, and these forms are already stiff. So adding that piece of paper doesn't give me the flexibility sometimes to go like that. If it's a really thin form, you can do that to sort of give it a little bit more structure if you need it. But if you don't need it, don't put that in there. So sometimes you can bend that form a little if you kind of look at the client's finger and, wow, she's got a real nice curve on there. They're harder to form, but they're beautiful when they're formed, and after you finish, they're very beautiful. So you want to take that and you want to kind of squish it in there. Just give it a little bit of a bend. That'll help you a little bit. Then you can actually take that in there like this and shove that up underneath there, and then it can fit much, much nicer. Now you do want to note this. Underneath the nail is the hyponychium. And some people, it grows up very strong, especially if the nails are long. You can see that up in there. You don't want to hit that. It's it's the most tender part in the human body. If you hit it, it can really hurt. So you want to be very careful about shoving that too high up there with a client. But sometimes I will sort of wiggle it a little and see if it kind of fits in there. Now I have a plastic finger here, so it's a little stiff. It's not indicative of skin. But when I find the area that I want it to be, I will stick the sides down like that. Then I will hold it. I won't stick these little flaps down yet. I will hold it. Then I will go to the end and I'll pinch this together, and then I'll pinch this together. And sometimes when you do that, it'll suck up in the center a little bit and get a little bit higher and just snuggle right in there. Now if you look, you can see, if you look down the barrel of it, you don't want to leave too much of a gap under there. You want it to be nice and fluid over here and fit nice and snug. That's a good fit. Okay, and if you look at this sideways, this way, you can see that it's a good fit. What we're looking for is a very slight arch this way. See that? It's a very slight arch this way for this camera. You can see it this way, and it's a very slight arch this way. Another indication you can tell if you've placed it correctly is if you draw a line down the center of their nail. Usually forms put a line on it for you right here so you can center that. And if you peak this at the tip and you have hit the point where you're tipping it on a right angle, I'll show you a mistake so you understand a little bit better. So an incorrect would be, okay, so if I did it like this, let's say, I'm really trying to exaggerate it so you see the difference. See that? See how the line is not symmetrical going down the front of it? That would be incorrect, right? You see how this line is off-centered and it's not actually at the tip? You can see this is totally at the tip and it's right centered down the nail. That's why they put those lines on there for you, is so you can see how it's lining up. This would be very frustrating after you took it off the nail. It would be all quite wonky. The line is crucial and you really want it to line up. You want everything very symmetrical. Again, it's the foundation of what you're trying to build, so you really want to make sure you get that right. Another really important thing, and I'll demonstrate that with this one. Well, this is bad, so I'm going to take it off and throw it out. We're going to do another one. And I will do that a little bit. Now, sometimes you get somebody with not very much natural nail on there at all. Sometimes they're bitten down like Grant's was. Remember in that video? His was bitten down quite far. So you're basically just giving an educated guess of where you want that form to be placed, where you think the natural nail is going to grow. Now, it is an educated guess. When you see the natural nail coming off like this, you can see this one. That's why I supplied 2 in my kit, because I wanted you to have 2 different experiences. This one has basically no nail at all, and it's kind of lumpy and bumpy. But you can see that there's no natural nail. So like, where do you place the form? You want to pretend in your mind, sort of imagine as if you were going to pull the natural nail and just pull it naturally how it would come. That is where you want to place the form, below where you think the natural nail is going to grow. This is a platform. This is the foundation, and it always must be below. And why that's super important is I'll tell you when it comes to the sides. Now, sometimes I can even place it. You can see there's no nail on here whatsoever. I would form this guy like this. Now, one might think that's ridiculous because look at that gap, right? Such a huge gap, there's nothing there. But it's really hard to get it right flush, and it's not really necessary because if you're doing with a proper liquid to powder ratio, it'll just sit there, it won't run right through, which we will get to. So why this is important too is you have to imagine the sides. It's a tough thing on a nail biter. Because the sides are so puffy sometimes, it's really hard to get the form in there. So you want to make sure that's the most key important part. I'll show you the wrong way to do it. This is the correct way. If I look on the side and I take that natural nail in my mind and I pull it out, this form must be below where that's going to grow. Now what would be incorrect, and it's so easy to do, is to make this error. The shorter the nail is, the easier this error is to make. And often we will put the form up over top. It may be just a fraction of an inch, but in the nail world, that's huge, right? These little errors are huge. What happens, if you can see that I have placed this form right here, that looks pretty normal. That looks like, oh, that's good. If I was to put product over top of this, I might have a tough time trying to get the form off because it's up inside the acrylic and up where the nail is supposed to be. And when this grows out, you can see if I were to take this off, I'm gonna have to do one of those when we do the liquid to powder to see that this paper would get stuck. It must be below the sides, otherwise it interferes with the whole application. So how we work it, natural nail, acrylic goes on top, the form, the paper form, must be below. Now, a lot of nails can be constructed with tips first, omitting the form. That's a great way to build a nail. It's a manufactured tip that's already built in for you and you can just stick it on with some glue. But it is a little bit confusing because when you glue a tip, you do glue it on top of the natural nail, right? That's probably where much of the confusion actually comes in. But when you deal with a form, you don't want it on top of anything. It's got to be below, creating a foundation for the acrylic to basically fall on top of. That's how we build an acrylic or gel nail on a form. It's sculpting with a form. If you want to follow along with me using the same products in my new DIY series, you'll find them all in my professional starter acrylic kit at store.nailcareer.com. You'll find a link in the video description below. Let's get started. Since I've launched the kit, I've received overwhelming support, and I thank each and every one of you who've purchased the kit. Speaking of the kit, I do assemble actually each and every one of these kits myself. So I gotta get going, but I'll see you in the next video.